As a nationally recognized pediatric care facility, Phoenix Children's Hospital has become one of the top hospitals in the country dedicated to the health, well-being, and physical recovery of children. With the addition of the Francis H. McClellan Rehabilitation Center, that mission has just gotten a little easier.
The rehab center at Phoenix Children's makes us world-class because, again, it's full comprehensive care. Good news is not a lot of children need extensive rehab services, but very sick ones do. And if you get into it, there's very few facilities that are dedicated to pediatrics in this country, particularly west of the Mississippi.
To have a rehab center dedicated to kids means that they get the special attention that they require, the equipment that's meant for them, meaning the right size, and a place that's child-friendly and not intimidating.
The biggest difference between the rehab center now compared to how it was before is that we're able to serve many more children. Our capacity, not only our capacity, but the type of equipment we're able to have, and that we have a big open large gym, which we never had before.
The building of the Francis H. McClellan Rehabilitation Center was made possible through a gift from the Emerald Foundation.
So when I think about Frances and the legacy she wanted to leave, I think about the Emerald Foundation she set up at the end of her life. Its purpose was to facilitate and support groups that supported women's issues and children and families, primarily. And she was, like she always was, very practical and pragmatic about it. She said, whatever you do, I want you to do in a short period of time so that you have the maximum amount of impact. And so the Children's Hospital Rehab Center just fits perfectly with, I think, what she would have enjoyed as part of that legacy. Being able to support children, and in particular rehabilitation, given her own experience as a child, access locally to a world-class facility that can help a child recovering from a surgery or an illness or some other thing. So I think she would really have looked back on it and said, wow, well done. I'm glad we were able to support that.
Francis H. McClellan was born August 5, 1923 to Irish immigrant parents William T. McClellan and Sarah Winifred McClellan in Tucson, Arizona. She lived on the family dairy farm until the age of 8. It was then that she contracted the devastating disease polio. Her parents sought help for her in the Tucson area, but were unable to find what they were looking for. Their search led them to a doctor and a facility in Los Angeles, California. Traveling between Tucson and Los Angeles in the 1930s was not an easy task. So arrangements were made for Frances to stay with a foster family near the treatment hospital during the many years of operations and treatments that would eventually allow her to walk again.
Frances had a wonderful life. She lived it to the fullest. I felt like I was the only child growing up on the farm because she was gone from 6 or 7 years over to Los Angeles, all by herself at the hospital, having to endure the operations that she had. We would see her in the summer. But as her life played out later, it showed the courage and the determination that she learned as a young child, having to deal with a strange disease that came upon her unexpectedly, like I'm sure many of the children here at the hospital. So I say courage and faith and hope. There's a great life ahead, and Frances ended up as corporate treasurer of Shamrock. She played a role in the business community at the University of Arizona, where she eventually received a doctor's degree. She was active in so many charities. She was president of the YWCA and on many boards at the university. She lived a full life. She traveled on her own and with family members. What a great life she had, and what a great example of somebody that had an unexpected illness early in life that she had to deal with. And it can be dealt with, as she has, and be very successfully overcome.
One of Frances's dreams was to build this rehab center, But all I know is in the future, some little boy or some little girl is going to be able to go right there and continue their therapy and continue their rehab with the people they're familiar with all the people they've been working with the whole time, where they feel safe. And so I am so proud of Frances. I am so grateful for her heart. And I think that she and I have a similarity in our hearts about children. And I've lived out my life with children. And I'm astonished sometimes when I think just how much Frances loved children.
I think the example of Frances is that she was a great model of how to deal with adversity. But I don't remember her ever complaining once about anything. And if an issue came up that was a challenge, regardless of whether it was a business challenge or a personal challenge, she would understand it and she'd make a plan to deal with it and she'd get right on about it. She never let adversity get the better of her that I can recall. So that's what I admired about her. And the children that are going to be helped by this facility are going to have adversity. And I think if they knew of Frances and her story and how she dealt with it, it might be a great example for them.
A very special lady. Frances had perhaps the strongest desire that I've ever witnessed to participate in all that life had to offer and to achieve her desires to their absolute fullest. Frances was a very gentle, kind-hearted, compassionate lady who was always concerned about working with and helping others. She was constantly putting others ahead of herself.
There was very little, if anything, that would slow Frances down. Over the years, she would enjoy traveling the world. Many of those adventures would involve her cousin, Jeannie.
She has been a part of my life all my life. And all my life, I've always been aware of her. Some people would call them physical disabilities. I would call them an amazing way of life that I just accepted. It was part of my growing up. And the reason we're all here today or talking about Frances is because of what she has enabled Phoenix Children's Hospital to become with their Rehabilitation Center. As the years went past and I got older, we had a different relationship, and I got to become aware of how important giving back to many different organizations was for Frances. We grew up in the same church. She was always very involved in the same church. I mean, giving to Trinity Presbyterian Church, actually. And there were other aspects of her life that just really meant a lot to her. And as the years went past, she decided and knew that she was going to form a foundation to enable her money to do the best that it could for many different people on all different levels.
The thing that most striking about Frances, I've never seen her disgruntled or unhappy, notwithstanding her own difficulties, physical difficulties in life. She was somewhere or other along the way, she decided to look at the best things of life and make her life a happy life, and that she did. And obviously, we who have been involved with Emerald have been able to carry on that project or task for her. The only disappointment is that she can't see it, because she would have been thrilled.
Frances's faith was very important to her. A longtime member of Trinity Presbyterian Church in downtown Tucson, Frances also served as clerk of the session, treasurer, and president of the Board of Trustees.
Frances was the treasurer here. She was treasurer with Shamrock, and that didn't come easily. She had to work for that position, and she had to overcome a lot of odds to get to that place. So here at Trinity, Frances was a very quiet, unassuming presence, but who was very inspirational. She always had a smile.
She always tried to boost morale. She was always trying to see the positive side. In doing that, then, she motivated us to become the people that we are today.
Frances also worked with the Tucson area YWCA, serving as treasurer and board member, and then president from 1974 to 1976. It was here that she met Prill Kuhn, and the two would become best friends.
Frances had a sense of adventure. She loved art and she loved music, but she also liked being in the moment with people who found her patient, calming, and appreciative of them. We, for example, went to Madrid one time. And of course we went through the Prado. And in going through the Prado, she was amazing because we went everywhere, whether you were supposed to be able to go up the steps or not go up the steps. It mattered not. We could find an alternative route to get wherever we wanted to go. She was a person for whom obstacles were just things you got over.
The addition of the Frances H. McClellan Rehabilitation Center has altered the quality of pediatric care, not only for the state of Arizona, but for the surrounding region as well.
We've always sort of been a part of the hospital, but we haven't had our own place in the hospital. And as such, we've had to do a lot of transferring patients back and forth. They didn't really have a set community, a set place to be. And so I think that one of the greatest benefits of having a dedicated unit now is that we have established a place for them that is, number one, everybody there is working hard on something and is undergoing, although they have very different reasons for being there, they're often undergoing very similar experiences there. And so it creates, just by location being all together, it creates that community for the patients, for the families. I think there's a lot of families who end up supporting one another through this experience, and they are making better gains for it, and it is a better atmosphere for them. I mean, everything in there now is safe, and everyone in there understands the process, and so it has made a huge difference for us. The gym is on site as well, so they have easy access to that. They don't have to be out in the general community initially to kind of kickstart this process, and they are among people who all have kind of a unified goal for them.
When I reflect back on growing up and being around Frances when I was a child, I knew that she wore a brace on her leg to support herself as a result of the polio she suffered, but it never got in her way. It never held her back. And I think that's what she brought to her life, is that irrespective of what your circumstances are, you can lead a full life. But more than that, she led an extraordinary life because her involvement in activities, whether community or business or family and extended family, were just remarkable. So in spite of the things that she might have thought would hold her back, nothing ever did. And whether it was traveling around the world or getting involved in causes that she thought were important, nothing really held her back. And she was an inspiration, I think, to all of us in that regard.
Her mother said to her, "You may not like what's happened to you, but you don't need to tell everyone about that." So that was, I think, very much that families were expected to be able to, with their faith and their hope and their hard work and diligence, to overcome things by themselves. But the message is that these young people that are going through the Phoenix Children's Hospital, they have a great future. They have a wonderful place that is providing the best care for them. And I know that Frances would be so pleased to be able to see them now in the rehab center that is being named for her, because that was where her heart was, how could she help families, young people particularly, give them a hand up, do the same thing with women. How could she help them? And so she dedicated whatever financial money that had accumulated in her name, and she gave it all to back to those people that needed it.
Oh, if Frances were here right now, I would say thank you, and I would hope she would be very happy with what we have done.
Seriously.